Good evening and welcome to EvilGinger Tuesday. This is at the proper time and I've actually got quite a bit to show you tonight whilst I have a bit of a chat and a faff around with some modelling bits which I've got over here. Mostly cleaning models and some bits that I've shown off on Facebook earlier, but I wanted to show to this audience. These are, ignore the box at the bottom, it's just the grass, static grass storage box, which I use as a transfer thing. Possibly seen photographs of these up on the page as I've been doing them. I think the actual pictures are scheduled to go up after the show tonight. But we have, he's just putting those to one side. Yeah. Whilst I've done quite a bit of decluttering, there isn't actually that much space to operate in. And when I get the office sorted out finally, I'll actually have setups where I can put things and side tables. This is a close-up of one. Figures by May 1940 Miniatures. And it's from their first run at European, i.e. May 1940 Dutch. They're rejigging the range, and there are a number of, well, they're going to be redoing the range pretty much entirely, though some of the older sculpts like this one I think might be hanging around. Very nice sculpts. The new ones are even better, and they're just going to look gorgeous. And I've got a couple of campaigns set up to play locally, in my head at least. This is Lewis Gunner, using Chain of Command. I've just got to get some 28mm Germans because I don't have any, and probably some more Dutch because I only have a section and no platoon commander. And I need a platoon commander because this, like Bolt Action, is a platoon level game. So I'm going to run it as a company level game because why not? There's a game called, there's a version of it called Big Cock. The Loudies are also into stupid acronyms and stupid puns, which obviously they find amusing, but as they write really, really, really good rules, I think we have to let them off a little bit. This is the 1940 book with the army lists and that sort of thing in it. The main rule book is somewhere in amongst the debris field, and I will have to dig it up and find it. But it's an excellent set of rules, a lot of fun and deeply tactical. I'll show you a couple more of these because they are absolutely gorgeous. As I say, I'm hoping the new editions will give even more variety of range, because in a skirmish game, which Chain of Command is, and so is Bolt Action for that matter, you want as much variety of pose as possible, so that hopefully you don't get so many people, different people. Where's the sergeant? Sergeant with his little chevrons on his arm, on the cuff, both sleeves, and a rifle, because they didn't carry SMGs at this point. It's a very sort of early army, and while SMGs were a thing as early as in the 30s, they were somewhat specialist, and even a big army like the British were a bit on the short side when it came to submachine guns. But the main thing is the thing I've been teasing at for ages, is this, which is part of my 1/3000th naval collection. These, I believe, are mostly Japanese, and they are, there's another tray underneath there of the same size. They're NAVWAR 1/3000 models, and I bought them from Spirit Games many, many, many years ago, and I painted them while I was doing a really, really rubbish job in Nottingham. And I've got piles of them, literally. There are some boxes around here, literally with foam trays full of them, and these are the overflow. As you can see, they got really, really dusty. The bottom tray is worse. You can see they got extraordinarily dusty. See, it's actually slightly glossy. And what I was going to do was I was going to clean these while I'm talking to you. And it's just a question of using a soft brush to take the dust off, because hopefully they'll be going in a better container, better. And I'm going to find somewhere to put the dusted ones as I dust them. So it's just dust, it doesn't need water. Base is a cardboard mounting card and metal, and have been gloss varnished to make it look watery. I believe the sea colour is a Games Workshop colour, because in the days when I was buying lots of these, I was buying Games Workshop paints, which were quite good paints. They're a bit expensive, but they're now much, much smaller pot size. Shrinkflation is very much a thing with Workshop. Basically, as you can see, getting the dust off saves a lot of problems. In fact, what I might do is I might just sit that there. Japanese aircraft carrier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dust off a load in here, then I'm going to put them back in here after I've dusted the tray out. The Congo class battleship stroke battle cruiser. Built as battle cruisers, arguably after refit, became a fast battleship, as they were considerably up-armoured from a very early style battle cruiser. This is one of the battle carriers. It's ice in its battle carrier version. Can't remember whether the ice was actually converted, but there was a plan to put a flight deck on the back of it. I've got a considerable number of fraction of the Japanese fleet in these 1/3000th models. These little destroyers and cruisers are quite cute, really. You don't want to get them wet, because if you do get them wet, while stamp dusting takes the dust off, it also turns it into a fine mud. And I'm going to be sneezing in a minute because I have a very, very slight dust allergy, which would help if I had my glasses on. I'll leave my working glasses off. Again, the sun's not got to these. These have been covered up, but they've just been out in the dust. This is... they did all sorts. But I'll have to go through and ID all of these, and I haven't done a naval wargaming in a while. Which is a pity, really, because naval wargaming, especially in this scale, is considerable fun. It's fun in bigger scales, but given that you're talking ranges and engagements which were miles, point blank range in World War II was 10,000 yards. So you're talking about really, really close. And if you've got a carrier in action, you might be 50, 100 miles away from each other, which was the thing about carriers, is that they had an enormous strike range, whereas you were pushing maximum range at 20 or 30 miles with a gun on even a battleship. This range is really comprehensive. It's got types and conversions on existing types which were never built. It's got submarines. It's got all of the ships from all the major navies and bits and pieces from the minor powers like the Dutch, who played quite a bit of part in the naval side of the of World War II, especially in the Pacific, and whose submarines were pretty lethal, given the small numbers of them compared with the Americans and later the British. Again, this is another, I think that's a flying boat carrier. Yes, again, flying boats were a thing. They were used for extremely long range reconnaissance. And if you've got thousands of square kilometres of sea to cover, you are going to be using reconnaissance assets to scout and hopefully find the enemy, preferably before they found you, and allow you to launch a fighter strike. So this bit is less dusty because it was the bottom layer of the two, and they've been sitting on my shelves for about since I moved in, which is at least a decade. My American fleet is even bigger. I have, again, all the American capital ships and about third by strength of their minor classes, and most of the unique one-off destroyers, so cruisers. So if there's only one of them, I've probably got it. As I say, these were built for victory at sea, but they've been used for other games. And naval warfare is a considerable amount of fun. It's just that it's probably less fun in the World War II period because of the involvement of aircraft, which at this scale are pretty much tokens, but they are so dominant. And your battle cruisers and your battleships and your heavy ships are pretty much secondary to the carriers and become increasingly so as the war goes on and the aircraft get more able. So quite a lot. There's another tray which is dustier than this, which again, the water is glass, is gloss varnished. The ships are basically painted grey, washed, and then dry brushed, and a little bit of, and the decks have been picked out with a colour, I think it's Tamir, called Deck Tan, after the dry brushing, so you can actually see detail. I'm not entirely sure whether I could see well enough to paint these anymore, but probably could with appropriate magnification, but definitely still play with them. I think that's a merchant ship. That's a merchant ship. Again, major part. Merchant ship played a lot of part in the Japanese island campaign, both in taking the island and the islands from the Americans and others, and in fighting and in trying to keep the island supplied in a situation where the Americans were on the counter-attack. And that's the first tray done. Put that down there, and I'll just dust this out. This is an ancient Eden tray. I can't remember where I got it from, but I've had it years. And it's just useful for putting stuff in. Again, it was something that overflowed. And the ships will fit better because they've been moved about over the years and are, as a result, quite all over the place. You know, the mounting card that these are based on used to be the thing that all war games bases were made of for years and years and years, and MDF and plywood were a bit of an outlier, and plastic, as in hard plastic, was definitely not a thing. I think I've got a Yamato somewhere. They might even have all four of them. The two that were built and the ones that weren't, or were partly built and I think destroyed by the Americans, mostly in dock or sunk as guard ships. And it got to the point. The big problem with the Japanese as a naval force was that they didn't have, they were all oil burners, and they had a distinct shortage of oil, which was the reason they went after Dutch East Indies and really need a quick and decisive war, and couldn't face the grinding attritional war that they ended up in. Much the same as the Germans, they needed to achieve their military. If they were going to start a war, they needed to achieve their military objectives really quickly. And as they didn't, largely because, to be honest, they took on more than they could chew with the Americans and the Royal Navy at the same time. They might have done better had they fought only one, but they didn't. They fought both. And they also had very, very poor convoy doctrine, which meant submarines were much more effective against them than they were in the Atlantic, where there was a war of submarine and anti-submarine warfare was a thing, and the Japanese didn't consider it terribly honourable to escort, to be a warship that was doing escort duty, because they seemed to think that the warship was there to get involved in a decisive battle with the enemy at whatever level the size of ship that meant it was supposed to be involved in. You know, where be it screening, attacking, or actually striking the decisive blows, which is what the battle ships were supposed to do in sort of with the carriers in support. That's what this actually looks like. It's really, really dusty. That one, as I say, was on top. And I'm going to have to manoeuvre the mouse about. So I've managed to open things up and I don't want to kill the screen. That's the second one. Again, another neat Japanese carrier, which I will need my glasses to read the writing on it, because it's my handwriting done in silver pen. It's common in naval war games, especially at small scale, to name all the ships. Some of them where there were distinct classes, and which had multiple copies, I would put a thing on the bottom. This one is an ice class ship, ice, and it is actually, whereas the Congo, there were a couple of Congos, and as I say, there were two Yamatos built and finished and used, and a couple that weren't. Again, gently dusting away. Oh, and talking of the Yamato, that's the Yamato, which is, even in this tiny scale, a great big chonker. And it came with separate turrets which you could traverse, but for sensible reasons, they're all in glued into fixed positions. And It's very much blue cloth warfare. I think I bought the last of these before I moved to Burton, which would have been easily 15 years ago. We might have some little dots to repaint on some of them. Or a Japanese battleship. So I've got a large amount of Americans. I've got some British to act as support, because obviously the main British effort was in the North Atlantic until towards the end of the war. So I have a small British force and a lot of Americans. It still outnumbers the Japanese collectively. If I had a 3D printer, a nice resin printer, I'd probably print some of the smaller boats up at a bigger scale so that they're literally so tiny. Navwar did some really lovely sculpts, except his quality control is what we call in the business a bit iffy, and he often sent up stuff that was very heavily flashed. But I got all of these from the original Spirit Games in Burton, which is down by the train station, and the price I paid for these was getting kicked in the head by people going through to the other parts of the shop, whilst I was kneeling on the floor going through the little racking, little toolboxes that screw drawers that Phil kept all of these in. I might have one of them somewhere, but I think in the end the sun killed all of them, because there's only so much life in a hard plastic drawer, and 40 or 50 years of being exposed to the sun at various points. We can just light the merchant ship. But at one point I've told you exactly what that was, but it's probably a Japanese one. This is another float plane carrier, because they often have big cranes on them for lifting the float planes in and out of the water if they didn't have decks. And that cruiser. To say, the rest of the thing are in foam trays and boxes, which I got from Figures in Comfort as a yonks ago, and they are not so dusty. But I never got round to putting these, and there's also possibly some unpainted ones somewhere, because I had a load of landing support craft. And I don't know whether or not I finished those off, whether or not I just stuck them to bases, just because it was getting at the point as I was moving to Burton that I got those, and I think they might have been left out in a house which I was sharing with other people, which had a thief as one of the residents, and he might have nicked stuff. Not because they're valuable particularly, but because he was just like that, and I'd upset him, mostly by telling him the truth about things, which is why I won't live with people I'm not extraordinarily fond of, and they'll put up with me. So he told all sorts of interesting lies. Proper narcissist. Well, I'm not a fan of them. So you can see there, again, the fact that the front and back deck are just picked out. Probably that would have gone, but I should have gone on both sides, but it was just, gives you the impression. When I've done this, I've got to go and have a fight with the online banking again, because for its own immutable reasons, it may be wait. This is Japanese submarine in the extraordinary dusty state. Japanese submarines were meant to operate in the fleet in the line of battle as part of the screening force, but the submarines, especially submerged submarines, were a hell of a lot slower than any surface ship at that point. It meant there were often issues with them not being able to maneuver and basically being in the wrong place. There's another Japanese submarine, and again you can see the type is on the bottom. The card I bought was blue, dark blue, but the side that I actually based all the ships on is white, and I painted it blue with, I think, Space Wolf. I think that was one of the variations of Space Wolf Grey, which is a very nice blue. Was a very nice blue grey. And I used to go into a workshop, and they were asking me what I was painting with it, and they were very confused. Or the Zero Hours contract chap, who thought the entire hobby was Games Workshop, was really confused when I used to talk to him about painting sea with it. I'm fairly sure that the manager in the shop where I got the stuff, and the branch I got it from, used to send the newbies out to talk to Simon, because if they could put up with me, if they could deal with Simon, they would. Or if they'd annoyed him, I'm going to damp this in that, I think. Right, I just need to load those into there. And as we're coming up on half an hour, when I've done that, I'll probably call it the evening. But it's been lovely seeing you all and actually having a little bit of a fun project to do. I'm still working on getting a camera so you can actually see what's going on. But as you probably saw, if you saw the workshop video, I have got another camera, but it's not. But I probably need to get another one that's more suitable and can do filming while I'm working around. Because the only display on that camera that I was using is the screen that I'm sitting in front of. And obviously, if I'm down the workshop down that way or any other part of the workshop and I can't see the screen, I can't see, it's blurry, not till it's too late. And I posted the film I did, not to put people off, but just to show you, to demonstrate for the future, for far future me, a learning curve that I have been on. Because I always find looking at people's first videos, especially big channels' first videos, gives you a lot of confidence about where you can get, how far you can get from where you start from. And this is nearly done. And again, if anybody's interested in naval wargaming, I will quite happily dig the rules out and play. But bear in mind that it's been probably 20 years since I've actually played, 15 years since I've played them. So it'll be learning together. But you won't have to play, if you're into doing, if you don't mind using other people's fleets, or people's armies and fleets, you'll find that I've got more than enough for a multiplayer game. And that'll go over there for the moment, and I'll then put them on the shelves, and they'll get transferred into something a little bit better than that box. And I just need to wake the mouse up, because it's what's it mouse, and it's gone to sleep when I've been talking. So obviously the mouse is bored. Now it's got it. So there is the end stream button. It's down at the bottom. Anyway, hope you have a great evening. And I'll see you on Facebook tomorrow for a complete different chat where I'm going to be talking about a commission that I'm doing and showing you the bits and pieces on that. All right, take care, and I will speak to you tomorrow, or you'll see me tomorrow. Good night, everybody, and goodbye.